Hi, everyone. We're just jumping over from distribution and access, so we'll get started shortly. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us with Environment Production. We're going to get started in just a moment. And for everyone's awareness that this call is going to be recorded and posted to the council's website for compliance with the Open Meetings Act. So please be aware of that. I'm also going to have to remove any AI note takers from the call, just as a heads up. And we will go ahead and get started in just one moment. Okay, everyone. Welcome to the Maryland Food System Resiliency Council's Environment and Production Committee meeting. I am Annika Lefebvre, the Resilience Program Coordinator with the Maryland Department of Emergency Management. Thank you for joining us this morning, and a special thank you to those who just joined us from Distribution and Access for this little marathon that we're having. So today's meeting is going to be a productive one, I hope. The committee plans to talk through some parking lot issues you had that were left over from this past annual report and identify where you'd like to go as a committee and what your overall vision is for the coming meetings and for next year's recommendations, just to get started with that. So the first thing I'd like to do is turn it over to our committee co-chairs, Nancy Nunn and Joe Malone. Nancy, would you like to say hello?
Sure. Good morning. You're probably accustomed to seeing Dr. Lansing lead these meetings, but she'll actually be leading the entire council meeting next week. So thanks for joining us again this year, and welcome to Joe. I'm excited to have him as a co-chair.
Thank you, Nancy. Hello, everyone. I'm Joe Malone with Maryland Commerce, and I'm looking forward to helping facilitate the group and supporting however I can. Feel free to reach out at any time.
Great, thank you both so much. I lost our slide. 1 second. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick roll call of the voting members to get started. We know that Joe and Nancy are here. Do we have Dr. Escobar here today? Anne Marie Hart Bookbinder? Dr. Karki? I think Dr. Lansing is at a conference. Grace Leatherman?
Here.
Hi, Grace. Steve McHenry? Mark Powell? I saw Martin.
I'm here for Mark, Annika.
And Carl Schlegel.
Tyler Huff filling in for Carl.
Okay, hi, Tyler. So we can go ahead and get started with the conversation.
Annika, I don't know if you called my name, but I'm here.
Okay, thank you, Diana. Sorry for my delay. Okay. Here we go. So the announcements, there are not many, but the Distribution and Access Committee and Environment and Production Committees will both be meeting next month on October 16th, back to back like this month. And then the full council is meeting next Thursday on September 25th at 10 a.m. And just wanted to highlight that the December meeting has been moved back a week due to a scheduling conflict, so it will be on December 11th. You can always reach out with any questions regarding scheduling, and I hope to see you all there next week. So for this conversation today, really the goal is to kind of highlight where you want to go as a committee. We're hoping for an engaging conversation here, and we really want to hear from all of the council and committee members about what topics you think still need attention from this group. So please think about if there are any subject matter experts that need to be contacted, or if there are open questions left from the recommendations that you've drafted for the annual report, which will soon be published, anything like that. But I'll share with you, these are the parking lot topics that were included in the 2025 annual report. Those were food date labeling for wasted food prevention, it should not say production, and facilitating access to the H-2A program as a means of addressing labor shortages in the agricultural industry. And lastly, incentivizing the purchase of locally grown food for Maryland public schools. Any thoughts on ways you would like to address this? Are these still the outstanding issues for the committee? Looking for anyone to jump in. Thanks, Leslie. Go ahead, Tyler.
Thanks. So the one thing I will say off of that, especially to push, was the H-2A program. We were just in DC with our council presidents. It is a large issue, especially when it comes to labor within ag force. There's a lot of things that need to be done at the federal level and streamline there that is per se out of state control. But I think labor is going to be a consistent issue here, especially in the agricultural community as we move forward, and something that I think any way that this committee can help push the access and put pressure on the places that the pressure needs to be put on to help with the reform, help move forward, because without those workers, President Zippy Duvall said it the best, if we don't have some push here, it's going to be amazing. You thought grocery shelves were empty during COVID. Watch what happens if we don't get H-2A reform in that aspect. So that's something I think we should definitely prioritize as a committee.
Thanks, Tyler. Any other thoughts? Thanks, Lorian. Any other thoughts on H-2A or like strategies that how would you like to direct that issue? Like, we have heard from the Department of Labor already on what the overview of the program looks like. What would be helpful in addressing this further?
As I said, a lot of it has to be done at the federal level. There's not as much that can be done from the state level, which is, it's challenging for sure. But I don't know where the best lie works. We talked to labor before. I think they're a good resource on this. That might be something that we have a yearly conversation with them over, just what's the status, what's going on from that nature. The best way this committee can put some pressure or have conversations with the federal representatives, especially it's difficult because at the federal level, this doesn't technically go through the farm or the ag committee in the House. It's a dual committee issue, which adds some extra layers and pressure to it. We have McLean Delaney on it, on the ag committee within the House Ag, but there's nobody on the other committee that deals with it from the labor and the immigration side within the state. So I don't know where that push comes, who we talk to in that aspect. Maybe it's we look to somebody more at the federal level to have a conversation with the group, but I can think on that some more and let you know.
Thanks, Tyler. Anyone else? We move on to the next list. Food date labeling, did anyone want to jump in on that one before we continue? Okay, so we just took a look at the activities that you highlighted for yourselves in last year's version of the bylaws, and tried to pull out some of the topics that still need to be addressed. So fair labor practices was one that the committee has expressed an interest in getting into that you have not addressed in the past year. Others were technical assistance and funding for food businesses owned by racially and ethnically diverse Marylanders, or environmental justice issues impacting historically marginalized communities. Anything here that you would like to pursue in coming meetings? And if so, what specifically would you like to do? One thing with the fair labor practices that I was curious about is if there has been any interest with the heat standards. I know that ALEI's conference coming up in November does have a session on that. Is there anything else with regard to like agricultural labor safety that you're interested in, or anything with that regard in that area, or technical assistance for the food businesses, anything like that? Not hearing a lot of excitement for the options on this slide. Okay. Wasted food and environmental impacts. Oh, Diana, go ahead.
I'm sorry, can you go, I think equally justice issues that impact historically marginalized community is an important topic. And also, I also think that funding for food business owned by racially and ethical, diverse Marylanders is an important topic too. But I don't know how we would want to look at it or how to approach it. But I think those two topics are very important because we still see it going on to today.
Thanks, Diana. Any specific thoughts on? I appreciate what you said, that they seem important and yet we don't have like a specific angle or strategy that's being pitched on how to address these ones.
I just think it's hard to address it and to know what angle to go at or what impact we can have.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, this doesn't have to be the end of the conversation too. Lorian, go ahead.
Sure, and sorry to jump in here. I was just wondering if we have engaged the University of Maryland Extension Andrea Franchise's research that is about equity and land access statewide this year. And I know they're coming out with sort of like results and recommendations, or results at least of the academic research. And that may be one, future step to research, how to kind of look at a strategy to increase equity, at least in land access for farmland. So,
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the next list, the wasted food and environmental impacts, promoting sustainability of the State Nutrient Management Plan program, on and off farm organics recycling, programs and resources for food recovery, including cold storage and food preservation programs, and climate smart production practices. So you met last year on climate smart agriculture and got a presentation from the Hughes Center about their project. And I know that you actually were able to incorporate a lot of that information into your recommendations this past year. Are there other things that you would like to talk about with regard to wasted food or climate impacts in relation to agriculture or the food system? Maybe what we'll do is we'll just blast through these slides and we'll hear what you guys are interested in. Does that sound okay?
Well, Annika, if you don't mind, I can speak on that slide in that,
Yeah.
again, I'm just, looking at general bullets and I don't have the submission in front of me for what we're submitting. And so I'm trying to put pieces together. I see the words cold storage or food preservation programs, and I absolutely don't want that slide to go away without someone acknowledging that that's obviously something we could, fight for. But when it comes, we obviously went through a year where we were drafting recommendations, understanding that budget situation is tough. I just don't know when we talk about formulating a recommendation revolving around aggregation or further processing of products, how we can make an effective recommendation without asking for cash.
Martin, going off of what you just said, do you happen to know much about that new cold storage program in Hagerstown? Is that something that would be of interest to this group?
I mean, anything that's, any learning about what's working, but I mean, with this being in the parking lot, I thought the feedback we were looking for was how are we going to, make it tie to FSRC's ability to make the pitch. I definitely think there's a lot to learn about. And I know that there are local community efforts as it relates to this. I was just out in Garrett County and I saw Teresa hop off. I don't know if she hopped back on, but I was just out in Garrett County and saw Garrett growers' little communal farm market self-serve stands that they've actually connected to credit card readers at each and every spot. And so now they've got these little self-sustaining stores, and they partner with WVU Heart program, and people can actually put their pins in and go and access this food. Now, this is not necessarily waste, but when we're talking about aggregation, cold storage, and getting food to where people need them, and not necessarily needing the oversight or the investment of having people run these stands. I mean, if we're just talking about things to hear about and learn more about, that one was pretty eye-opening.
Thank you, Martin. And I'm seeing that Lorian in the chat suggested coordination of cold storage that would be available for food assistance in the event of disaster or emergency situations. Nancy also highlighted the work that Montgomery County Food Council is doing with regard to farmers implementing climate smart agricultural practices.
Right.
So
and
what
if
would-
you wouldn't, Annika, I could just speak to that really quickly with the climate smart agriculture. I feel like, this is something that would be really hard to generate a general policy recommendation around, but to drill into certain production practices. Our project where we funded 15 farmers in Montgomery County for climate smart ag, we're collecting data from those farmers about the barriers to doing climate smart ag, especially financial barriers. And we'd be happy to kind of inform any policy recommendations moving forward.
Thank you, Lorian. Okay, I imagine we're going to come back to this topic and talk through how to specifically address the things that you're most excited about. For this next one, it was on local food production. You talked about wanting to address more barriers for new and beginning farmers. I know that that was in a recommendation in the 2024 report regarding the Ag Commission workforce development, so farm worker training, farmer training, food system worker training in general. I think that there was some interest in exploring what programs are available with the public school system. Agricultural occupational health and workplace equity, we already talked about that a little. Supply chain continuity and risk management in food production. So continuity is not something that you have explicitly talked about in the past year. Is that something you would like to revisit? And then ag innovation and technology. So sales platforms, digital commerce, that kind of thing has been talked about in the past year. Are there other angles that need to be addressed here or ways to pursue this further? Michelle, go ahead.
Yeah, one thing I'm wondering about is the labor question when it comes to diversified fruit and vegetable farmers. and whether that's impacting those more labor intensive crops and how farmers are going to approach that outside of just the H-2A visa question. And so I just wonder how farmers are going to adapt next growing season and if they are planning to make adjustments. And so I don't know how to answer that question, and like whether or not there's a group that we could ask to present, or maybe Tyler has something to add, but that's just the question that I have about our current political environment.
It's a ongoing conversation. The truth behind the situation is they have to post the job before they can even go through the H-2A process. Very few even get applicants for the jobs that are posted. There's just not a workforce for things in general. I think somebody like a Tyler Butler, who utilizes H-2A, somebody within that space to talk about the struggles that they're dealing with, how they're planning to adapt the next growing season and what changes they're making, would kind of discuss that from that standpoint. So somebody that currently utilizes H-2A labor, deals with the struggles, deals with the different challenges, speaking to the group would be somebody I recommend. And Tyler Butler's one from Montgomery County that comes top of mind.
Thank you. And then I think also the question about non-H-2A labor, and whether or not that's impacting what growers plans for the future, for folks that haven't used that labor in the past and may have trouble finding labor now in this current political environment. So anyway, just a question, not something to answer at the moment, but just a thought.
I think it's a really good question, and the suggestion to reach out to farms that are currently participating in the H-2A program makes sense, and also farms who have employees, I think, would be helpful, although I imagine that some of them may be reluctant to talk candidly about that in an open meeting. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly highlight the bullet on agricultural innovation and technology and sort of potentially increasing crosstalk between growers and technologists at universities and startups in the state, and opportunities to sort of help direct those efforts of developing technologies and directing those towards the challenges that growers face in state. And so I don't know if others have specific ideas on that. I'm happy to throw things against the wall with the group, but I think that that's a really interesting topic to follow up on.
Thanks, Joe. Okay, we'll circle back to that. The next one, local food procurement and marketing. So price constraints you have talked about, but we can keep talking about it. Price constraints for institutional buyers and needs of local producers. I think that could be helpful. I recently spoke with a produce distributor who highlighted that there has been a lot of focus for technical assistance for both buyers and for local producers and how to work together, but there has been less of a focus on how to bring our produce distributors to the table to help facilitate those relationships. So that could be an angle to address consumer trends for local food products. So we talked about Maryland's Best last year, and I think that was of interest to the committee. Are there other things you would like to explore there? Increasing availability and visibility of Maryland produced food products through food retailers and distributors. Anything here that you'd like to jump into?
Yeah,
So,
Annika, go ahead, Nancy.
I was just going to ask you, Martin, would your value added guide fit in with the Maryland producer food products and provide some guidance or suggestions in some of these areas?
You know, the challenge with this guidance document is it also encapsulates agritourism, which has more of the on-site, and environmental health has become a really, really big piece. So although there might be something that you all will see in the coming weeks that might be able to be pulled in a recommendation or two, what I was about to say is in some of our past conversations and roundtables revolving around this document and the drafting of this document, there are some communities that have explored the possibility of that aggregation model, more so that further processing model. And a lot of them come up saying the cost analysis is still an unknown. And so if there was an opportunity, maybe that's the angle to take, in that establishing some of those templates and those frameworks, whether it's in a study or some kind of modeling exercise that shows what it looks like and what these communities would have to invest to stand this up. Rather than taking that state approach, there's a lot of local communities trying to do this on their own. Again, sorry to repeat Garrett County, but I had a wonderful visit out there, and you know, Garrett Growers had been exploring something very similar to that, which they had quoted to me upwards of $1.5 million in partnership with a nonprofit stood up at the state county level. So there was a lot of support there, but it was really hard to make the numbers work. And if somebody can look to see where the scale is and where those numbers work, it would be easier to have a blueprint to support some of these counties right off the bat to help them stand up these facilities.
Thanks, Martin. Would it be of interest to maybe look to other states who have started to do this well, and like see if we can get like a subject matter expert to come talk to you guys about it? And if so, does anyone have any recommendations? We can also reach out to Garrett Growers, of course.
So a couple things. To Martin's point, well, first, I love always hearing what Willie's up to, and Garrett Growers and Western Maryland, and such an innovator. So I love that keeps coming up. I know, just to add on to the visioning and then deciding against, I know the Frederick County Department of Ag or Office of Ag did a big study, decided against pursuing like a facility. Montgomery County has looked at this for a long time. Heather may have some updates, but there are places that do that. I mean, the state of Michigan has a lot of food hubs. Like I don't know how they do it, but because their growing season is not even as long as ours, and yet they have this huge local food and food hub movement that seems to, be pretty prolific. And I know Lorian has recruited a speaker that spoke to the Montgomery County Food Council in the past from Michigan State, I believe. But I'm kind of curious. I'm a little bit curious about why. Like, I would kind of love to have a meeting about like what Willie told you, Martin, about the over $1 million problem and like the decision against it, what Frederick County did and like how they decided against it. Like, it might be nice to put all of these sort of like visions into a box and just kind of look at them as a group, and then decide if there's some common themes that certain states may have approached in a certain way that might be a solution. Because I feel like I always hear this, but like I don't know that we've brought all of these kind of I don't want to call them failed like visions, but these ideas in one spot that to review. I don't know if that's happened or not.
Thanks, Michelle. That's a good suggestion. Would you recommend inviting those folks to join a call together and kind of like participate in an open discussion?
Yeah, maybe if we could have like 3 speakers, like here's with like 10 minutes each, and then a 30-minute discussion about how to, like, if there were policy issues or like barriers at the state level that could be worked on through the state legislature, or if there is a model somewhere else that we need to learn more about, or how to break down. I think what happened in Frederick, from what I've heard, is it just didn't make sense to be self-contained in Frederick, and so the investment didn't make sense. But we know that that's why food systems are regional. They're not hyper local. I mean, they can be, but it's more about where food is grown and then where people live within, a certain amount of miles. And so how do we break down those sort of county by county barriers where, we're competing against each other, whatever.
It feels like Somatic has hit barriers too. I'm not quite sure what the updates are there, but just another organization in the mix.
Yeah, to what Grace's point, I was about to use that as well. I know that's meat as far as a model goes, but again, there's a certain scale that seems to be a moving goalpost. And if you're not familiar, Southern Maryland recently commissioned a blue catfish feasibility study, and you'll see that that modeling has a scalable model for a full-fledged private enterprise. Keep that in mind, but a $10+ million investment to make it up as far as raw product going in and finished product coming out. So Willie's comments were more on the line of just, it's hard to make cucumbers, make up for the cost when you're trying to do a small community-based operation. Something I wanted to say, I don't know, and I know I missed the last meeting. University of Maryland Extension recently hired a small business and entrepreneurship specialist, Dr. Prida Abile. Dr. Abile is new, but I have crossed paths with him a few times already. And he just pitched at a University of Maryland Eastern Shore conference that I've also presented at, upcoming effort on his part about transactional costs. He referenced it as the hidden ghost, which I actually loved. So I hope he keeps that as the name of some kind of report. But he's wanting to connect with farms and retailers and those tapping into the local food system to see what we're not accounting for, right? Logistics, storage, energy costs. Sometimes people aren't even using their time and accounting for their time when they're a small enterprise or community enterprise. So if he has not spoken on that, that would be really great to invite Dr. Abile to talk about that. I don't know how far along he is, but it definitely sounds like he's got a really good idea of what he needs to tap into.
Cool. Thank you, everyone. I'm just taking notes on this. This is really helpful. Anything else before we move on? Thank you. And thank you, Lorian. I see your comment in the chat about the Eastern Food Hub Collaborative. Okay. So we have the local. We talked through this one. Local food aggregation and manufacturing aggregation facilities we just talked about, on-farm food processing and preservation, food processing equipment for institutional buyers, commercial kitchen access, and equipment and infrastructure sharing programs. I know that Marbidco also recently launched a grant for processing, if I'm not mistaken, but that was all kind of covered in the conversation you just had. So local food procurement, we talked about most of these. Yep. All right, let's just open it up for discussion. What are we missing here? What are you interested in exploring that isn't in this list? What would you as a committee like to be doing with your time?
Hey, I know I'm new to these calls. My name is Brandon Phillips. I'm actually from Michigan, by the way. And I know we have a lot of farms down there, a lot of farmland, tons of it. Even though we don't have a long enough season as you guys have it in Maryland, we produce so much as far as animals and produce and everything from corn. We have everything. But we have warehouses and commercial kitchens where we can package and store those things for that winter season. So that's something I think we miss here in Maryland because we don't have that same type of infrastructure. I also own a huge commercial kitchen space. So I saw you guys were talking about using commercial kitchen spaces. I actually run the Stratford University building on Central and Pratt in the city. And we have about 35,000 square feet of commercial kitchen space here. A lot of people don't know about it. So that's something else we probably can utilize to help package and bring some of these things to light for the city or the state.
Thanks, Brandon. Where did you say your commercial kitchen space is located?
Central and Pratt, Baltimore City, the old Stratford University campus.
Okay, thank you.
Brandon, I think that you bring up an excellent point about being able to utilize fresh fruits and vegetables by preparing them for the winter season. That's excellent. And there's so much waste here in the state of Maryland that we do not utilize that. I know Beth definitely does that, and it seems to be very successful.
Yep. So we also do a grocery giveaway every Saturday, and we kind of target DC, Maryland, and Virginia. But another thing we can do, I have partners from Papapas and Sons, which are wholesalers, all the way down to Cisco, US Foods, Performance Food Group, and we rescue a lot of their waste. We don't have the infrastructure to store most of the stuff that we get, so we give out as much as we can, but we still have so much waste because we don't have enough freezer space or refrigeration space. So if we can put something together where we can build some huge fridges or freezers or walk-ins, and the stuff that we partner with my commercial kitchen, we can blanch food and vegetables, and we can put it and store it and utilize it rather than just tossing it all in the dumpster.
Brandon, please put your contact information in the chat.
And that's what I was going to ask too, Leslie. And it would be nice if maybe Brandon could tell us exactly, maybe present at the next meeting and let us know exactly what he is doing and how he's doing.
Sure, I don't mind.
Or Brandon, if you have a website, maybe you can share that with us and we can take a look at that too. Any other things? Thank you for contributing that. That was very helpful. Any other things that you guys would like to talk about? This is to help me plan your future meetings, and so it's really important for me to have any direction from you, the active committee members.
I know I've been speaking a lot, but one thing that I think several of us are members of that is a little bit of an overlap is the work that Elise Chalmers is doing with the USDA LFP, I think it's LFPP grant, where she's trying to promote mostly farm to school, sounds like, and understand the barriers to institutional purchases. So, she has some dedicated time and funding looking at that issue, and presented a quarterly update yesterday to a group of, I think she calls it an advisory committee that I am a part of. I know Kanika was there from MSDE. So I think that there is a lot of overlap, but it might be good for the full group to understand what she's working on.
Agree.
Okay, thank you, Michelle and Grace. That's helpful. Would you guys like to circle back to, we touched on ag innovation as a possible direction to take this in, and Martin highlighted that cold storage shouldn't go away, but how do you take a new lens to that and navigate the issue around budget constraints? Okay, here's what I have so far that you are interested in pursuing, and this, we can just do this. So we'll reach out to Tyler Butler or some other farmers who are utilizing the H2A program and see if they can speak more about what farm labor looks like for them, especially in the new political context, and better understand angles that you might be able to approach there. And then we'll talk about the aggregation and processing models that the different local jurisdictions and regions have started to address, and maybe see if we can try to navigate that with multiple voices sharing their experiences and cost analyses. And then you wanted to hear from Elise Chalmers about her work with institutional procurement and farm to school. Am I missing anything major with those three as launching points? Shannon, go ahead.
Hey, sorry, I've been kind of quiet. personally, I'm very overwhelmed with the current work I'm doing on packaging and paper products, extended producer responsibility law within the state of, but it will have long impacts on how we can potentially have more shelf-stable foods, specifically in our meats. Tyler, I think we have to talk a little bit about this specifically and how it might impact agriculture, because it's got some downstream positive impacts we're hoping out of this. But I wanted to bring in about the distribution of materials that would otherwise be considered as waste versus recoverable, because last week I got to join, and Maureen was with me as well, the DC Central Food Kitchen, and we had some really upfront discussions relative to what is considered to be recoverable and redistributed. And I know I didn't chime in on the date labeling because, again, we're still waiting to hear how USDA is going to be approaching this, and California, because they are such large production on those date labels. And so we wanted to kind of listen and hear about how that's going to have nationwide impacts. But when materials and food is recovered and is meant to be redistributed, what DC Central Food Kitchen shared, and then we are also understanding in the smaller redistribution, is that when it has that label or it has something that cannot be immediately turned over because of that label, that they would like to dispose of it because of various different concerns. And I still think it's something that's incredibly important to understand the protections that are in place associated with federal navigation of, that Bill Emerson Good Samaritan. It does not say that those labels can't be used. And I am just trying to understand the folks that are involved in the recovery and redistribution, how can the state best support understanding of where date labels are still allowed to be used as opposed to disposed? And we just don't have a big enough outreach that provides that support to those smaller recovery and redistribution. And I just don't want that to get lost as an approach under this committee.
Thanks, Shannon. But you're also saying that we should put a pin in that date label conversation for now. Is that
No, what I'm saying is, at the state level, I don't think that we have the capacity to say, let's put out a statewide law associated with this right now. I don't think that that's something that the state of Maryland is considering being a primary focus as far as removing date labels or modifying date labels in the state. I am saying it's important to provide the education to the production and also recovery of those foods to say those date labels are not what you think they are. And it's still edible and servable. So that's what I wanted to make sure I clarified.
Thank you. That clarification was helpful. Okay. Anything else there? And I saw that Carl joined the call too. Is there anything like that the Maryland Farm Bureau or other organizations are looking at as pressing issues that you feel like the council should be also looking at that we haven't discussed here?
I don't know if Carl has anything else to add, but from the Resiliency Council, there's nothing I can think of off the top of my head. I mean, we talked earlier about workforce and H2A. Again, H2A being federal, I think workforce, having Tyler or somebody of that nature who deals with it on daily fact, talk to the committee, would give us a better feel of what the reality of the situation looks like and how those that are the boots on the ground are going about it and handling and making adjustments of that nature. Carl, I don't know if you have anything to add. No, you just jumped on.
And I'm sure that Carl is very busy in his field right now, so no worries.
Chances are he's on a tractor right now listening.
Okay, so thank you. This has been a really helpful conversation. I think has given me some good direction for how to support you all with next steps. Is there anything that you all would like to share from your professional lives or your organizations, just general updates for the committee before we adjourn?
Annika, I'll add, most on this call are familiar with MDA's efforts to draft the statewide guidance and analysis document specific to value-added agriculture and agritourism. We're still looking at hopefully end of September publication online with hopefully something more formal come conference season. Proposing this item to unveil at a few different places, and we will certainly be willing to present some of the findings and the information to the subcommittee or the full council as you see fit.
Great. Thank you so much, Martin. Anyone else?
Annika, I'll just share that it's been a couple of months, but again, like I said, I've been in the weeds with this. But the Department of the Environment published the waste characterization report that was completed, and it was published in February, March of this year. And it really defines how much waste is winding up in our landfills and incinerators across both municipal waste and in industrial commercial. And food is still a very big portion of those materials being disposed of. So again, if you want to take a look at that, I can send you the link, Annika, to share amongst everyone here. But I think it's really critical can you continue to share with people that you know food is a big portion of our waste stream, and we really need to use all the tools as necessary to get that out of there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shannon. Anyone else? Okay. Well, I will be in touch with these follow-up documents, and thank you for sharing that, Shannon. And we will be getting our next agenda together soon. So thank you all for this conversation, and hope you have a good rest of your day. Hopefully see you next week on Thursday.
I have one quick thing.
Oh yeah, Grace, go ahead.
Just to note that Future Harvest will be hosting a webinar just on the basic introduction to school procurement with a number of other organizations. MSDE will be there as well. Frederick County will be presenting. That'll be on October 6th at noon. So I just got an updated little social media image. So check social media for that, and Annika, maybe I'll send it to you as well.
Okay, it's a virtual meeting?
Yes, webinar.
Okay. Great, I'm happy to share that.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks everyone.